All right. See this. So this one done. Okay. All right. So I believe you can see my screen, right? Okay. We're going to continue from where we stopped last week. Let's say last week or in our last class. So we're going to be doing introduction to functions and methods. So from here onwards, I'll just give you a brief introduction to this, and then we'll get into programming. Okay, I remember the last example I gave about functions in that is how that you're able to, just like a conveyor belt in a factory with items entering the machine from one end of the conveyor belt and coming out completely modified, just like a box of carton, okay, is opened from the beginning of the conveyor belt. When it goes into the machine, it gets filled and then sealed when it gets out. So it's modified. That's functions for you. Okay, so functions in that are in two categories. We have built-in functions and user-defined functions. Now, user-defined functions are functions that users create themselves. Built-in functions are functions that are predefined by that and are part of their libraries. So let's go to, let's see, I think, yeah, all right. So before I get to this, let's say, okay, we have print, like the print function. The print function, the printing statement we've been using throughout the class is a built-in function, okay? Yes, this very print statement here is a function, is a built-in function. So the print is a method that performs the specific task print, okay? So let's see. Then we have hello world. The hello world is the argument we pass to the method. Okay, this hello world is argument. So anything inside your bracket, they're called arguments. All right. Then when we print out hello world from this is the output. All right. So that's for inbuilt function. Then let's look at let's say index of function. If we're looking at index of function, let's say for example, let's do, let me comment this out first, and then let's say index. I usually use comment to like indicate what program I want to describe. Okay, so that's the reason for this comment here, index of function. So let's say we have something like string text, and then let's do this, and then print. We have text dot index of. Let's do LL. Okay. All right. Okay. So now what's happening here? Text is the object here. We are calling text is the object we are calling the method index of. All right. Text is the object we are calling the method index of on LL. Let me do that again. Text is the object we are calling the method index of on, and LL is the argument we are passing. Okay. So the output is going to be, let's say 2. And I'm going to tell you why it's 2. All right. Let's run this and see. We get 2. Now, LL is located at the second index in the string hello world. Why is that? Because from here, we're looking at 0, 1, 2. So index of 2, okay? 0, 1, 2. So if you're counting this, it starts from 0. Please take note of that. That's index of. Same applies to if I should put, let's say, H. Now let's see what this gives us. 0. So index of 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Normally, when you're counting numbers, you start from 1. Yes, but when it comes to programming, all right. So that's for that. Now let's move on to introduction to, I'll still definitely dive more into functions, but specifically what you need to understand about functions and what's most commonly used. All right. So this introduction to data collection. Now, collections and data structures. Collections are objects that group other objects together according to a conceptual schema. For example, a dictionary is a collection of words, and a card deck is a collection of cards, just like these card decks that you usually play like what game, or in the there's where they actually go to play games where they distribute cards and you hide your cards and then you play and you win, you know. Uh, so that's what it's talking about here. Card deck is a collection of cards. You have Joker and host of them. All right, so another name for collections is data structures, and there's a good reason for that. Data structures are a means of structuring data. They are used to store, manipulate, and retrieve all types of data. I remember I already talked about data when we started classes. Now, that's collection. Unlike most programming language, that doesn't have a large collection of built-in data structures. Rather, it has 3 core built-in collections that can be used to create collections based on an individual's needs. Those 3 conditions are list, set, and map. Now, for the sake of this class, I'm going to be focusing more on list and map. All right? Yes. So now let's look at the list. Now, when it comes to list, we have that array. So arrays are one of the most common and most popular data structures provided by a programming language. That being said, there are no arrays in Dart. Instead, Dart has lists, which provide more or less everything an array provides. Lists are an ordered collection of objects, just like you have a list of food items: rice, beans, meat, yam, egg, tomatoes, pepper, like that, an ordered list collection of objects. So this means that every element in the list has a fixed position. So use a list when you need to access objects by index. Okay, so we're going to look at creating a list. Okay, we're going to look at creating a list. So I'm just going to run some codes now, but then take note of this syntax. The general syntax is this: var list name, then assigned to element 1, element 2, element 3, 4, then and so on and so forth. Okay, so it can be as many lists as possible. That's why you have n at the end of it. All right, so take note of this syntax. This is the syntax for creating a list. All right, so let's see. For example, so let me switch to all right. Let me create list dot. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to put up a simple list. Let's say var, and let's say simple lists. Okay. And then print this. Okay. Going to clear my console, or clear my terminal rather, and run this. Say we just run a simple list. So we're only declaring and initializing a list with 5 elements. Element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 elements. Okay, so take note of that. Now, you notice that when we print the list using the simple print method, the complete list, including square bracket, is displayed here. Now, you notice we're not using curve brackets or curly brackets here. We are using square brackets for list. Okay, so please take note of that as well. Then you can also declare a list using a list constructor. Now, a list constructor creates an object using the list keyword, followed by parentheses. Let's say, I'm going to do that here. We'll have var list of vegetables. So I'm going to be using something very, very related to, and then we'll have lists. Okay. This is an empty list. Okay, so what we're going to do is just giving me an L. Doesn't have a list constructor. Okay. All right. Okay. So if we run this, there's nothing. Okay, just an empty bracket, meaning it's empty. All right. But usually the reason why it was giving an error is because before in that there's been a lot of changes and upgrades. So before, if you just had list, then with an empty bracket or parentheses, it works. Yes, but as time goes on, a lot of things changes. Yes, we have Flutter upgrades, we have that, changes a whole lot. Just like we used to have React 15, React 16, 17, and up to 19. I think React 19 is the latest now. Yes, same for Flutter. We have Flutter versions. So all of it. And I did some upgrades recently. All right. So that's why we're having that. So this is an empty list. All right. So what I just called this now is using a constructor, this dot empty. All right. So in case maybe like you want to have other things in it, you have this field from generate of unmodifiable, right, iterable, and so on and so forth. All right. So these are constructors. So it just depends on which you need to apply. Okay. But this is an empty list. Okay. So let's move further. So I'm going to create more examples. Let's say lists. Let's say we have list. Okay. Then string fruits, square bracket. Let's say we have apple, we have banana, then we have orange. Okay. Now we get to print fruits. It prints out the 3 elements: apple, banana, orange. So you can have as many lists as possible. All right. So now you notice the difference in this. Yeah. Like what he said, a list is an ordered collection of objects. So you can create a list using square brackets or the list constructor. Okay. Square bracket. So what I did initially was to declare a variable. All right. So this is var list of vegetables. Of course, this is a list constructor. The first one I did was just declaring a list. All right. Then initializing it with these elements, 5 elements. Now, this is another way to go about it. And then you have 3 elements here: list, string. All right. So an ordered list. All right. So we're going to go further with more examples for you to see. So let's say we want to access one of these elements. Then we'll do print fruits. Okay. This is accessing the first element. Now, the first element on this, remember, I made mention of index of. All right. So when you're counting a list, it starts from 0, not 1. All right. So if I should do this and run, the first element on this list is apple because it starts with 0. If I should put 1 to give me banana, on the outcome. All right, so that's accessing a list. Then let's say you want to add elements. Okay, so if you want to add elements, let's say print okay, before I get to that, we have fruits. Okay, it's already doing that for me. And this mango, fruits.add mango. Now I want to add mango to this list we have here. Okay, so let's do that and see if it adds that. Now you can see on my terminal, you have apple, banana, orange, and mango. Why? Because we added mango to the list. So what if I want to remove? Okay, so do this. I want to remove banana. It could be any element on the list. Okay, banana. So if I click on run, okay, you find out that banana is no longer on the list. We have apple, orange, mango. They are now 3 elements. Okay, so on and so forth. Then there's what we call list properties. Okay, so let's do that with this. Let's say print. Let's look at the length. All right, print fruits dot length. Okay, so the length of a list. If I should run this, let me clear the terminal and run this. Now the length is looking at the number of elements on the list, 1, 2, 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. Now looking at the length is different from the index of, okay, or accessing the first element. There are two different things, so that you're not confused about it. I mean, like you're not saying 3, like, okay, so if it actually starts from 0, no. When looking at length, we're looking at the total number of items on the list. But if we are to access each element on the list, then we're looking at index of this here. All right, so there are different things entirely. The length gives you the total, while index of gives you each element on the list. Right, so that's it. Okay, then let's look at another example. Okay, now this is to check if the list is empty. All right, and if the list is not empty. So what do we get as the output here? We get Boolean. Remember, I said Boolean has to do with true or false. Boolean, this is bool, okay? Bool, true or false. That's what it gives. So let's run the code and see. So if is the list empty? Is it empty? No, that's why we get a false. Then here it says it's not empty. If the list is empty, then we get true because there's actually something inside. All right, so let's say we take this off. Okay, and then let's run and see what happens. Invalid value range is empty. Okay, so this is an empty list. All right, so please take note of this. All right, these are just basics, and you're going to be applying them definitely. For that of indexing, list use zero-based indexing. All right, so this means that the first element of a list is located at the zeroth index. I just hope this clarifies that part of accessing the first element, okay? Yes, so take note of that. I won't go over it again. Then, of course, we already found the length of an element. We already did adding an element. So let's move to maps, okay? Let's move to maps. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So, okay, Utsman, your hand is raised. Let's
Yeah,
see.
hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, so please can you go back to the code?
Okay. All right. I'll go back to it definitely. All right. Don't worry. It's fine. But I just need to get things done at least within the time
Like,
available.
I have like a quick question, just one quick question.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So what's your question?
Okay, so we have print root dots. No, we have print something. Sorry, can you scroll up? Okay, yeah. Now we have print fruit is empty. Can we also do the same thing for where we have the print, where we have the fruit dots remove instead of having the print on another line? Can we have like the print on the same line with this print fruit dots remove banana? I don't know if you get my question.
Okay. You mean like like this? Is that what you mean?
No, okay. Yeah. So the print is going to be on the same line. It's going to be before the fruit.
No. No, you don't have it on the same line. It has to be on the next line. Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
it has to be on the same on a different line. I remember talking about I made mention of can't remember again, but that was like in the second class, yes, where when you're programming, it has to go in an order. Yes. So it takes care of one before moving to the next. So it's like a completion or running of task. It does the first task, then move to the next line and the next line and the next line. All right. So each line of code is given a task to do or to run. All right. Immediately it completes that, it moves to the next and then to the next. All right. So you can have this on the same line again with another print statement. All right. You can, it has to be next. And one of the advantage of this is that it makes your code looks orderly, all right, and readable. Because take for instance, when you build an app and you manage that app, you build it from scratch to finish. By the time you're done with that app and you want to move on to higher projects, and let's say another developer is to come and start managing the app you built, he's supposed to be able to understand what you've written, your code, all right? But if there's a challenge in reading and understanding your code base, then there's a problem, meaning you have to reach out to you to come and explain what you did. But actually, that's not how it ought to be, all right? So definitely there's more to that, all right, when we start doing more programs. All right, so let's get to the screen. I believe I answered your questions, right?
No, really, because we had print fruit dot length on a line here. That's the same thing that I'm asking that, okay, can we have it like we add it here? Like we have print fruit dot length. Can we have print
Okay,
fruit dot remove banana?
Okay, print dot remove. Okay. You mean like taking this line to this line?
No, look at what you did here. You have print fruit dot length. Can we do the same thing as writing print fruit dot remove instead of having the print on another line for the fruit dot remove? Can we do the same thing as we did for print fruit dot length?
Okay, you mean like, right? Something like this?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yes, of course, you can. Yes, you can. All right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so that settles it. All right, so let's go to maps, keys, and values. All right, so a map is an unordered collection of key value pairs. It associates keys and values. Every value has a key. This means that every key must be unique. However, the same value can be used multiple times. Two items with the same value will still be unique through their separate keys. Okay, so let's go to our VS Code and let's do, please take notes, especially for those who have difficulty creating a file and starting their programs. You come here, this is a new file, and then just enter, name the file with your dat extension, click enter, all right? And that settles it. When you enter main, you can see this, you just click enter and it's, all right, so because this is AI, so it's already even like putting out so many things. All right, so now let's look at maps. Okay, let's look at maps. So we're going to start with creating a map. Okay, there are multiple ways to create a map. All right, but let's look at the more common ones. All right, since we're starting with the basics. All right, so although I would say map are a bit more complex. All right, are a bit more complex, but don't worry, you'll get to understand it. So the general syntax, let's say var, then we have, let's do map name. Now, take note of this variable name, all right? Like I said, variable stores data, all right? So, and your name, the name can be, is not fixed, all right? You can use any name of your choice, but just use a name that actually matches what you want to program, all right? So now you can either use this, just say map, all right? Or when you are making use of two-syllable words, then the second word should start with a capital letter, all right? That's naming convention. You start with small and then name. Now, when you look at this side of the Explorer, you notice that I use small letters all through. So even if I'm adding, let's say, is a second letter, let's say I want to rename this. All right, click, come here. Now I can't use capital letter, let's say here. No, it won't, it's not conventional like that, but rather use a dash like, then this. Say, so there's what is called camel casing, all right, and a whole lot of other casing like that, all right. But this is how to actually name your files when it comes to creating, all right. Of course, when you actually create a Flutter project, you get to see other names attached to it, and they are all usually most like this, all right. So we'll get to that part anyway. So let's move down to this. All right. Then okay. So let's say we have I just want to make this easier first. AI now, it's almost like it's training examples for one. So we have key 1, and then we have value 1, and then like that, and then and so on and so forth. But just take note, all right? Forget about the error you're seeing. I just wanted to understand when it talked about key value pairs, it associates keys and values. Every value has a key. So that means that every key must be unique. However, the same value can be used multiple times. All right, so that's what I needed to point out. All right, so I'm going to clear this off and then use proper examples now. Let's say if we have names, I'm just going to give this, let's see, I want to use simple names. So have name, or rather, let's say country or capitals. Let's see. I want to use something that is more familiar so that it's easier to understand. So capitals, let's say we have United States, Washington, okay. France, Paris, okay. Nigeria, Abuja, Geneva, as many as possible, all right? So then okay, so come here and print capitals. Okay, now United States here, like I made mention before, is key. This is the value. France is key. Paris is the value, so on and so forth. All right, so like that. Now take note, when we're doing maps now, is not the same as lists. Here we use square brackets. In maps, we're using curly brackets. So you need to really take note of details like this, or else you'll be having errors. Okay, you'll be having serious errors. So please take note. All right. So there's difference between list and map. So if we run this now, we'll get you see it, everything here as we have. So we're going to be just like the way we did to list. We're going to be throwing out examples with some important key points, key details you need to know. All right. So let's say because this syntax is pretty much the same as the syntax for list. Okay. So each key value pair is written one on top of the other. So for each pair, the key and the value are separated by a column. The key and the value are separated by a column. So take note of this. Now, after the last key value pair, we move to the next line and insert the closing curly bracket, this. All right, so everything goes in here. All right, so let's move down to other aspects. let's say another way could be we have map. Initially we did list, so this time around we're doing okay, this already. So I want this to be as fast as possible. Then print capital map. So it's still the same thing. All right, it's still the same thing. So like I made mention, there are many ways you can actually declare maps. All right, so these are two ways. This is the first one, this is the second one. All right, so string. Okay, then we can also have int here. All right, remember this string is a data type. All right, is a data type. You have string. You can also have int. If you were to have int, let's say I'm going to let's see, let's do map. Okay, so this is int, and then print, sorry, relation. Okay, so we have string, we have int. Strings are for text, all right? Integers are for numbers, whole numbers, all right? So please take note. So if you're dealing with a same applies to list. So if you're dealing with a map that has to do with strings, all strings, all right, then you have this or you have this. If you have a map that has to do with strings and integers, you have this. Same you can have also for integers only, all right? So it just depends, all right? So please take note of that as well. Let's move on to, now I'm going to use one to make examples, like lots of examples. So let's say I'm going to use, let's work with this last one, but I'm going to change some details anyway. Let's look at this. Okay. All right, then I'm just going to put, let's say, person. Make this person. Oh, shit. Change that. And then let's say we have a height. Let's take this out. Let's do age, or say 30. Let's do height. Say 145. Let's do weight. Let's see 40. Let's take this one off. Though could add name. Let's do name. Then see. No, just work with these three. Yes, fast as possible. Although you can actually have more, but let's work with these three. Now, let's say you want to print or have access to only the age. Okay, just like we did in list. Then we'll have print person, let's say this time around, the square bracket age. Can have this. All right, so clear my terminal. And then run this. We have 30. All right, so what we just did is accessing the values. We just accessed age. Same you can do for height, you can do for width. All right. So now let's say we want to update these values. Like we want to change the age, all right, from 30 to 31. All right. So we're going to do person, let's say this, okay, and then print person age. This one is 35. So this has been updated. The person's age has been updated from what it was, age 30 to age 35. All right. Then let's say we want to add something new. All right. Let's add the person's name. Yeah, because we have definitely person's age, height, and weight, but we don't have the name of the person. We can also add the country of the person. Okay. So if we're going to do that, let's say person, just like this, virtually the same thing. And then we have name, which is the key. And then you give it value, which is, let's say, Friday. Okay. This. Now, what am I missing? Okay, that's because it's given integer. Stripe string can be assigned to a variable type int. Can you see this error here? A value of type string can't be assigned to a variable of type int, right? So in order to do that, definitely we'll have to work on this, all right? We have to work on this. So let's say we'll change this to string, all right? And the reason why it's giving, okay, let's capture later. All right. So instead of this now, we're not having errors. Why? Because these are integers. So remember, like I said, key, value. So if we're having strings as key, then our value have to be strings. If we're having strings as key, and then we'll have integers as key, then it has to reflect in the assigned data or values. Please take note of that. All right. So that is one important thing you should note. If I should comment this, let's say, and rather use one of these ones, we can actually be able to add names and countries since they are actually strings. All right. So I hope that's clear about that. So for this one, let's say we have this person has, let's say, shoe. Let's say shoe size. Shoe size. Then give it 42. Okay. And then print person shoe size 42. You can see there, right? So that's how it goes on and on. So this very map is almost similar to list, all right? Very, 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 very similar. Okay, so now let's see if we can move to functions. Now, let me just give you a brief detail about maps. Now, in that, a map is an unordered collection of key value pairs. All right, it's already written as it says before. So you can create a map using the map constructor or the curly bracket syntax, like I've just displayed. You can access values using their keys. You can update values by assigning a new value to the key. Same, you can also add as well and remove. Okay, so keys, what you need to know about keys is that keys return an iterable of the map keys. Values return an iterable of the map's value. Same for length, same for is empty, same for is not empty. All right. So yeah, very many methods, but you just need to understand these basics. All right. So on your own too, even after this class, while you watch, you can also go do your research. All right. Learn further on this. All right. So that's it about list and map. Now let's move on to functions. Yes, I already gave a brief description of function. Now, in that, let's see these functions. Yeah, okay. So in that, a function is defined using the return type. Okay, the return type. I know we had an example before, so let's comment this and let's say new prints. Let's do this way. Let's say great. I know this might actually seem like a lot, but don't worry, with time, definitely you'll get used to it. That's why there are tasks given to you to okay. There are tasks given to you to do an exercise. Take this one off. I also gave a link to learn about control flow statements. Of course, there are a lot more when it comes to that. All right. So we'll definitely likely look into those. All right. Then let's see. Okay, we'll take this off and then, all right. So now I want you to listen and listen very carefully. Void is telling us that the function does not return anything. This is a function. Void is telling us that this does not return anything. Okay. New print is the name of the function. This is the name of the function in which you get to choose yourself. Yes, you can choose anything, any name for this function. All right. You can name the function anything you want. All right. So just make sure that the name is meaningful to the functionality of the function. Yes. Now you notice that new print is followed by curve bracket and then curly bracket. Okay, so let's do this now. Let's see. Let's go with further examples. Let's say avoid main. Now I'm going to, okay, instead of deleting this, let's go to great John. Then this let's put this in script. Okay. This is me. Let's just hold on. All right, just trying to sort out things here. I was just trying. Doesn't come to that. Okay. The void return type indicates that the function does not return any value. The greet function prints a message to the console. Okay. I hope this is not confusing though. Yeah, because we're actually getting like deeper into programming now. So I want to see how I can really make this as easy to understand as possible. Okay. Hmm. Let's see. I'll go over what I just said again. In that, a function is defined using the return type. Okay. The void, this void return type indicates that the function does not return any value. Now, this greet function prints a message to the console, which is this. All right. But this one is not returning anything. All right. It's not returning anything. It's just a function and so on, but it's not returning anything. Because normally, if you take this out, okay, this one prints hello world. That's what you're having there. But this function here does not return anything. So take note. The void return type indicates that the function does not return any value. Okay, so now to call a function, simply use the function name followed by parentheses. Now let's look at this. Please follow carefully, okay? The first function I declared was not returning anything, okay? So now, to call a function, simply use the function name, Okay, this function name, this is the function name, this very one, greet, is the function name, followed by parentheses. Yes. Okay, so now we've done this. We've called this function here in the main. This is the name of the function. To call it, simply understand, simply use the function name followed by parentheses. This, we just brought it here. We want to call this function. So we only picked the name of this function followed by parentheses and placed it here. All right, so I'm going to run this now. You see, it gives us hello world. If I should take this function away, you get an error. Okay, you get an error. So that tells you now that this function is actually returning a message. It's actually returning a message. What is that message? This message, hello world. All right, I really want to make this clear and very, very clear. Okay, so I hope that that helps. Yeah, we'll get to questions if you still have questions anyway. So now let's move on to parameterized functions. There's what we call parameterized functions. Okay, we can create functions that take values just like methods. Parameters are a mechanism to pass values to functions. Okay, now let's create a function that takes two parameters and returns those parameters. Okay, so we're going to, let's say now let's do void greet. Then here, let's say we'll have I'm going to pass a parameter here, a string, say name. Okay, I'm going to pass a name because this actually applies when you, let's say for instance, when you sign up on an application, a mobile app or any web application. When you now log in, you now find where you see on the first screen, the home page, where it says, hi, your name. If your name is, for instance, let's say Emeka, and you signed up with a name Emeka, then when you log in, you now see hi Emeka or welcome Emeka. That what's responsible for that is a function. All right. It was passed from the authentication to the home screen. All right. So that's where this parameter function comes in. All right. That's where it comes in. So understand this very well. All right. So this, I want to pass a string, a name now. Okay. Let's say this, and then we'll do print. Let me take this off. And then let's say, okay, hello name. All right. Now, what name is this actually going to actually give out? Now, you notice that here it says one positional argument expected by greet, but zero form. You're going to experience this a lot when it comes to building applications. All right. You're going to experience this a lot. You're going to see this a lot. One positional argument expected. Now, what is that argument is expecting? It's expecting the name. Now, let's say Alice is that name. Can you see that? You no longer have that error. So what's going to happen now is when I run the code, it says, hello, Alice. All right. Now this is a function, okay, a greet function, right? This very function here is being returned here. Okay, so please take note of this. Now, this is one example of parameterized function where you're dealing with parameters. You're passing a parameter name. Of course, you can pass age. Let's say, um, let's say int age. Okay, then let's do 37. Remember, numbers don't need quotation marks. When you're dealing with integers, you don't use quotation marks. Okay, so here is going to be, let's say, hello, Alice. Um, you are okay. There's something I actually talked about. I thought when it comes to using this and this, it's not concatenation, it's interpolation. All right. Okay. So I just hope you've watched the video and learned from that, because every step I've been teaching, okay, you have to follow it. You can't miss one video and go to another one, or miss one class and go to another one and expect to understand. All right, so let's run this and see what do we get. Hello, Alice, you are 37 years old. Okay, yes. So this is actually passing parameters. Okay, so you can pass parameters, user parameters, through using functions. Okay, I'm going to reiterate again. Parameterized functions allow you to pass values to the function when it's called. In the initial example I did before, where you have string and name, the greet function takes a name parameter and use it to print a personalized message. It prints this message, but it takes this parameter. All right. Same for the age. It takes the age parameter and use it in this message. Use it in this message. All right, here precisely. So take note of that. Now we have optional parameters. All right. Now, example of that is named parameters. Okay. Or let's see. I'm going to give an example with this. In this function, an example can I give now? Let's see. Okay, let's have grades, and then we'll have this string. see. And you might be wondering, like, okay, this error, where is it coming from, and all of this. Remember, I talked about optional parameters. An example of optional parameters is named parameters. Okay, named parameters are optional parameters that are specified by name when calling the function. Now, if you look at this example, the greet function, okay, the greet function has a name parameter, name, that is optional. What made it optional? This question mark here. Now, if the name parameter is not provided, it defaults to null. And the function uses the null coalescing operator, this, to provide a default value. So if a name is not provided here, it will default to stranger. So it's optional. Okay, it's optional. But let's run this and see. Hello, John. Hello, stranger. Now, looking at this, a name is provided here, but a name is not provided here. So since a name is not provided in the second greeting, then it's defaults to this stranger. So this what are calling it again now? Null coalescing operator. Null coalescing operator only just stands at like, okay, it's either this or this. All right, because you're going to be making use of this a whole lot more too. All right, you're going to be making use, because let's say on an app, your data is not fully implemented. Let's say, for instance, scores. Your score for an app, maybe you started using the app just today. Your score initially will be 0, but as time goes on, it's going to default to a new value. The more you win, or the less your wins, or the more your losses, it's going to default to another value. But at first, it's just going to be 0. Let's say here. That's for integers anyway. All right, so this question mark here makes it optional. So take note of that. All right, I hope this is clear as well. Now let's move to positional parameters. It's still under optional parameters. Okay, it's still under optional parameters. Now I'm going to use example. Let's see. What example do I do now? Oh, okay. Okay, I think it shouldn't be more changes here. I'm just going to like make this, and then create this, allow this. Okay, and then this time around, I'll just take this off and this, this. Okay, semi positional. Positional parameters are optional parameters that are specified by position when calling the function. All right. So already in this example, we already see that the greet function has a positional parameter name that is optional. What makes this optional is, or positional is this. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So this is positional parameter. In the first one, which is the named parameters, we made use of curly brackets. Yeah. So now in the positional parameters, we made use of square brackets. These are very, very little and simple details, but it's actually a challenge in a way, because you could have done maybe like written a code base, and you might just be having one serious error that has just refused to go, or will not just solve even after trying and trying. But the only thing that might just really be the issue is just maybe where you should have used a square bracket, you want to use a curly bracket, or where you should have used a curly bracket, you want to use a square bracket. All right, so that's why you need to be very careful when you're writing your code base. And I would advise, especially when you're doing your task, don't go and do copy AI, because I will know if you're doing, if you used AI in your task. All right. So don't just go and just copy and paste something. You will not learn that way. All right. You will not learn actually. Yes. You have to understand the basics thoroughly. The only way AI comes in is when you're already familiar, all right, with that programming. And so that when AI gives you a, a solution, when it throws error, you already know how to debug it and fix the error. You know where the error is coming from. But if you just copy and paste, my guy, you'll see error. You'll be wondering like, where is this one coming from? Even AI too does mess up. Yes, it does. All right. So understand and follow thoroughly. Okay. So this is positional parameters. Okay. So like I said before, the greet function has a positional parameter name that is optional. All right. This name is optional. So if the name is not provided, it defaults to null, and the function uses the null coalescing operator to provide a default value. Yes, just same as the named parameters. Okay, so let's run this and see. Okay, we have hello John, we have hello stranger. The difference between the name parameter and the positional parameter is the positioning, and then the use of brackets, square brackets in this, and then curly brackets in the other. So take note of that. All right. So I think we've dealt with that. Maybe is there any other? I think that should be it for functions. let's see. Of course, there are more functions to actually do. Maybe with time as well, programming, I'll be telling you that, okay, this is this kind of function and this is that other kind of function. All right. Because you have nested functions. Okay. You have higher order function. All right. And so on and so forth. So now we're going to move to classes. All right. Yes. Let's move to classes. So I think from now henceforth, I'm not really going to be like displaying slides. So it's just going to be fully, you'll be seeing VS Code, all right, so that we can be programming and while I'm also explaining certain things to you, all right? Now, classes, classes. Now let's do a brief introduction to classes before I start maybe writing stuff. So let's put it this way. Classes are blueprints, okay? Now, a blueprint is a guide used for making something. Like, for instance, a building. You need a blueprint of a building before you can start making or constructing buildings, all right? Then, in the real world, blueprints are usually plans for making buildings, yes. You can create multiple buildings using the same blueprint, with each building being unique, yeah, but having the same architecture, all right? I know those who are in the engineering, yeah, who actually did construction. Of course, maybe like in your 200 or 300 level, they might have taught you something related to construction, all right? So you hear about blueprints, yes. Then now, let's say, for instance, a blueprint might specify the number of rooms in a house, rooms a house should have. Okay, so while each house built using that blueprint, while each house is built, okay, using that blueprint, we have the same number of rooms. Now, one house might have rooms with white walls, and another might have rooms with blue walls, making them unique entities, but still related through the blueprint. Okay, so now classes can be thought of as a blueprint with which you can create an object. Now let's go deeper. Let's say an object, okay, is an instance of a class, and that instance is the actual thing to be used in our programs. Okay, I want to use illustrations so that you really get to understand this, not just going into writing code. Okay, I'll go over again what I just said. An object is an instance of a class, and that instance is the actual thing to be used in our programs. Just like a single house is an instance of the blueprint, okay? The blueprint is just a piece of paper, while the house itself is the physical representation of that blueprint and can actually be lived in. Of course, you can't live inside blueprint, except you want to turn yourself to paper, yes, and then they paint you or stick you to the plan, all right? So the blueprint will specify the properties the object would have and also specify the operations or methods that the object can use. I remember saying earlier that anything related to the world out there is an object. An object is defined by characteristics, okay, and behavior. Yes. So if you understood that very well, then getting to this part shouldn't be difficult. Okay. Now, the properties and methods of a class are known as the members of that class. Properties in that are known as instance variables, because they are variables which are initiated when an object is created. All right. So I know this is new, but when you go over again this learning process, all right, you get a grasp. Now let's say to make a person class, a person, an individual, okay, a person class, we first need to define its members. That is instance variables, methods. Now let's say every person has a name, right? Every person has a gender. Every person has an age. Now this name, gender, age are instance variables of a person class. Okay, name, gender, age are instance variables of a person class. Of course, you can have more of that. All right. So furthermore, a person can perform certain actions such as walking, talking, singing, running, jumping. These are actions that a person can perform. Now, these actions are the methods of our function class. When we use a person class to create a person, we will create an instance of a person with its unique properties. Okay, so there are built-in and user-defined classes. All right, so classes in that are divided into two categories, like I just mentioned, built-in and user-defined classes. Okay, so of course there's more to this. Yeah, so I don't want to just say too many things here and there. So let's create or define a class. All right. So to define a class in that, because we're actually programming in that, the class keyword is used. Okay. The class keyword is used, followed by an identifier. Now that identifier is a class name of your choosing. All right. Then followed by the class body, which is enclosed in a curly bracket. Let's say, for instance, you have class. Yeah. Then identifier, what do you want to name your class? Okay. We have person. Okay. Then with a curly bracket, class body. Okay. So this is how you define a class. You have the class, the identifier, okay, which is a class name, then your class body, the program you write in here. All right, so take note. Remember, always note that when I'm giving an example or when I'm talking about a topic, I always give the syntax first. All right, so that you become familiar. If possible, have a note where you write all of the syntax for each topic. All right, you have for function, you have for list, you have for map, you have for variable, you have for data types, and so on and so forth. All right, same for class. You just have that syntax so that you just know that, okay, this is the syntax. If you want to write a class, this is how you go about it. If you want to write a function, this is the syntax of writing functions, and so on and so forth. Okay, so very important. Now, this class body consists of the members of that class. Okay, name, age, all right, name, age, all right. What else again? Uh, country, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you have all that. This is the body, all right, the members of that class. Or instance variables and methods. All right, so we'll go in deeper now with, let's say, examples. Now, for this one, why are we having errors here? Okay, images of, let's say, class pricing, and let's say we have string name, string gender, int, age, string country, let's see. Of course, we can have more, but in fact, this age set, you can even assign it to like 0. Yeah, you can do this as well. So now here you see non-nullable instance field name must be initialized. Okay, now why is not initialized? Because all uninitialized instance variables have the value null, null, null. Okay, so let's say we have person. What just happened? I'll tell you what just happened. Just hold on, give me a moment. All right, so initially we said it was stated that non-nullable instance field name must be initialized. So what we just did was we just initialized the instances of name and country. That's what we did here. Okay, this dot name, this dot country, this dot age. All right. So even if like I did this, still the same here. It's no error. So all right, let's go in further. Let's go in further. But there's something I want to try. I want to try something out. Let's say walking. Print name is working. Okay. Running. So this one prolong matters. And I have something really interesting to show you guys. All right. So we've actually this is a class now. Like this entire thing is a class. Okay. So once a class has been defined, you can create objects from the class blueprint. Okay. So let's see. I want to see how I can switch to setting up a book library. Yeah. book library, which I believe that will really it will come in handy, like very, very handy. Just give me a moment to come in place. Okay. Now let's go over. Let's do this. This is going to be long though, but I think it's what it. Let's say I'm going to change this to book. It's 12:41. Okay, so I'm going to be actually fast, like really, really fast. Let's see. Let's keep this. Come on. Okay. There's book. Where's my shift key? Not. Okay. Let's give this also. Okay. Okay. And let's say boom. Okay. So available on this here, because you can have that there. Not an issue. Take this off. And then have this available. Say equals true. Curly brackets. Yeah. Okay. So this is a class now. This is a book class. All right. This is a book class. So now this defines a book class with three properties: title, author, okay, and is available. Now the title and author properties are strings that store the title and author of the book respectively. Okay. The is available property is a Boolean that indicates whether the book is available for borrowing, all right, from the library. So it defaults to true if not specified. Okay, so that's what you need to understand about this class. Now, take note that the book constructor takes three parameters: title, author, and is available. Now, the is available parameter is optional. Okay, it's optional. And like I said, it defaults to true if not provided. Okay, so now let's move on further to add some more things. So let's do a function. Let's say void. Now I want a function to borrow book. Okay. what do we have here? This maybe something I be able to work with. Okay. Now this is a function. If is available. Now this I remember telling you guys to look at control flow statements. All right, which has to do with if else. All right, just like if this is available, okay, go ahead with this. But if it's not, then do this instead. All right. So what was implemented here is a control flow statement. If book that I want to borrow is available, all right. If it's available is equals to false, then print you have borrowed the name of the book by so author. All right. But if it's not available, then else it says say sorry. The particular name of the book, the title of that book is currently not available. Okay. So now this is a function for borrowing book. A function or a method. Now let's do void to return book. No much time again on my side. Let's see. Okay, I think this works. Let's see how. Shift key. Okay. Then this. Okay. It's okay. Available. This. Yes. Set a class member. Okay. Isn't inside the class? Yeah, this is a class member. So why am I having this? Okay. I was doing that because I didn't have the if statement, right? Okay. Yeah. Because you can have an else, okay, statement when there's no if condition. So this is more like giving the return condition, okay? So now let's say we define another class now. Let's say a user class. We have this, the user. So what's going to make up the member of the user? We have string name, of course. Then we have string, say, like, yeah. Okay, there's not much time for this, but although I already did this somewhere, let's see. So I'm just going to like, oh, I'd love to really show you guys, because in the assignment, in the tasks I gave to you, especially for the ATM, you can use functions, all right? You can use functions, you can use classes, you can use control flow statements. If like this, let me go to the slide. Okay. Yeah, and I remember on the slide I gave to you guys to look into, although it only had if else, but there are actually more to that. For loops, while and do loops, break and continue, switch and case. Okay, so whichever one you want to implement, all right, you can actually do that in answering the second task, which is being able to withdraw, like you enter a PIN and all that. So the the task requires you to actually think logically, like a programmer. Okay, so it's actually a simple thing, but like I said, you can actually do your research even while you're answering, but understand what you are implementing. Okay, understand what you're implementing, which is very important. So that's basically it. All right. So I think the class is going to end here. I'm just going to stop recording and then ask questions. Okay.